This episode was brought to you by Pentester Academy, the leader in online cybersecurity education. Join over 10,000 professionals from 90 countries to learn security online. Also brought to you by Hacker Arsenal, artillery for cyber warriors. Visit us on hackerarsenal.com to check out our latest attack defense gadgets. I'm Marley Oxenholm from Pentester Academy TV, and welcome to our show, Access Point, where we spotlight cybersecurity companies and give an inside look at the people and technology behind the latest advancements in the industry. I'm joined today by Matan Kubovsky, who is VP of Research and Development at the company Elusive Networks. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Marty. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. I'm excited to learn more about the company, so let's get started.
Let's do it.
All right. So now, what is the primary purpose of deception technologies, and what would be a beginning end-to-end process breakdown of a successful deception?
So first, I think that the most important benefit of the solution is to provide very early detection of advanced attackers. The second would be to have a solution with almost zero false positives. We all know that security teams suffer from alert fatigue. And this type of solution actually allow them to only get true positives and quickly understand what's happening and mitigate the issue very fast. But in fact, we actually realized that the solution is highly valuable, not only against advanced attackers, but also against insiders. So in addition to the early detection that the solution provides, it also allows to understand what attackers are actually doing and what their motivation is. This is given using our forensics capabilities that are very sophisticated and at the end of the day allow us to understand what the attackers are doing. So in order to create a successful deception, you would basically need to start with some research. You would need to understand what the attackers are doing. There is always a man that operates the tool behind the attack. So we have our research team that analyzes past attacks, that analyzes tools and tactics and procedures that attackers are utilizing on a daily basis, because they are same organizations as we do. They have their own KPIs and so on, and they have their own motivations. So we analyze those tools, and then we have our development team that actually puts in these research outcomes into the product and eventually provide a production grade code that allow us to lure attackers into those deceptions and eventually catch them very early.
Very nice. Okay. And now I know you kind of just touched on it briefly and spoke about, what a real successful one looks like. But in your opinion, how do you create an effective deception? What do you think makes it the most important factors?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I actually touched it a little bit in the first question. I truly believe that you really need to know your enemy, know your attacker. I know that it sounds like a war, and it really is a war. It's a cat and mouse game that we always evolve to the attackers and they evolve to our means. We first, as I mentioned before, need to understand the attack tactics. What are their pathways? How they operate within the network. So for example, we know that attackers operate underneath the radar. They dump credentials from Windows memory in order for them to move laterally within the networks. Using these methods of knowing the attackers, we're able to place deceptions right in the spots where they will pick them up from. But it actually doesn't end there. For us, in order for a deception to be fully effective, it has to be invisible for regular users, for the company users, for IT personnel. So not only that we create those deceptions that are very attractive and very lucrative to the attackers, we're also able to create deceptions that are hidden for the organization. And this mixture and this combination, which is part of the beauty of our solution, allows them to be, those deceptions to be very, very effective.
Very nice. Yeah, attackers become advanced very quickly, so they can usually sniff out, a fake honeypot or whatever very fast. So it's important to be really invisible, as you said before. That's incredible. Yeah. Okay, and now speaking of that, actually, I know that deception technologies have evolved a lot since the original honeypot approaches. How has your team evolved, and what distinguishes your approach?
So this is a question that we get a lot, and in order to understand the full capacity of the solution, we need to understand that the platform, our platform, or the Elusive platform, has four main building blocks. The first is what we call attack review, which is a module that provides visibility to the attacker before the attack even happened. The second is what we touched upon, and it is the deception module that provides very early detection against attackers and insiders. The third pillar is our forensics, to provide the motivation behind the attack and possibly some attribution to the group or the nation behind the attack. And the fourth pillar is what we call attack surface manager, which allows us to reduce the real footprint that real users use in the network. Now, honeypot solutions, on the other hand, are more static. They are placed in various locations in the network, and they wait for attackers to actually stumble or fall into them. They also sometimes rely on signatures, which is something that attackers know how to circumvent. Now, our solution is very easy to implement. It really takes us up to 10 minutes in order to deploy deceptions to a huge organization of 10,000 endpoints and more. It's very easy to operate because it uses automation and machine learning in order to analyze the network and understand where to place those deceptions. And in this manner, it's highly scalable. So I think that these are the main differences between the types of solutions.
Okay, yeah, got it. Yeah, it seems like it's so important to have a multitude of all of those factors combined as opposed to just a normal blanket security solution, because nowadays it's just not effective and it's not enough. So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so now I'm wondering, how can security teams implement elusive deception into their current security infrastructure?
So this is another great question. We have a very simplistic architecture that only needs two or three servers to be installed in the network. The solution is agentless, meaning that security teams do not need to install anything on endpoints or servers. This allows us to scale very easily. At the end of the day, they only need to install those servers, which allow them to operate their deceptions against various use cases. Now, those use cases span across different stories that are very important to them. For example, the solution is very relevant to sensitive areas in the network. We gathered from our customers that there are certain places where traditional security solutions cannot be installed. For example, healthcare devices or points of sales or ATM devices, where if you place antivirus or other traditional security solutions, it pretty much invalidates the guarantee of the device. But organizations realize that if you place deceptions that are essentially frictionless to the organization, but obviously not frictionless to the attacker, it is possible to do so in these types of areas.
Okay, got it. And now I know that you mentioned before that you're agentless. How can you do this without an agent?
So we actually have a tiny executable, a tiny application that our management server pushes to the endpoints, pushes to the servers. This executable, which is something that we're very proud of, runs for a period of 1 or 2 seconds, and then it disappears. It automatically dissolves and removes itself from the host, from the network machine. We have a few ways to actually push this executable to the endpoints and to the servers, either using integrations with tools such as Microsoft SCCM, with Tanium, with CyberArk, but we also have our own internal means to do so. So this allows us to be very scalable. And I have one example, which is a huge financial organization that have branches across all continents. And they actually had a very aggressive target of deploying deceptions, deploying our solution to 300,000 endpoints. And we actually were able to succeed that 2 months ahead of schedule just because of the nature of the solution.
Wow, that's huge. Yeah, I was going to say, because my next question was going to be, I know, putting deceptions across the entire system sounds like a lot of work. How is that feasible? But I guess that's a huge factor.
Yes, it does sound like a big heavy lift to the organization.
It does.
The product is agentless. Since it scales really seamlessly, since it provides a very low percentage of false positives. So the organization doesn't really need to allocate new people to operate the solution. All of these bring us to a very fast pace of rolling out the solution to organizations.
Very nice. Okay. And now I'm wondering, what has your team launched recently? And is there anything that you're excited about coming up?
Yeah, yes, actually, we're very excited with our new announcement, something that we launched back in RSA 1 month ago. This is a huge model that we call Attack Surface Manager, or ASM. So essentially, every day, users in any organization actually create footprint or attack vectors for attackers. Because whenever they use their own credentials and click save my password, do not ask again, the system actually stores their passwords on somewhere on the device, either on an endpoint or a server. Now, this gives attackers a big advantage because once they land on the machine, they're able to grab those pieces of information, real credentials and real links to real crown jewels in the network. It could be Swift servers, Exchange servers, servers, and so on. And they basically help attackers to succeed and to propagate in their attack. Now, we have our unique visibility to the organization. We're able to surface those small violations, we call them this way, and we're able to create rules to the organizations, so not only to surface those small mishaps or violations, but also to clean them up automatically to the organization. So not only that we increase the chances of catching an attacker by placing deceptions all over the network and provide very early detection, we also frustrate the attack lifecycle of the attack decreasing the amount of real information, real credentials that they may find as part of their operation. So this actually has been a massive effort from my team, from the R&D department, and also from the product department and from the research team. And as I mentioned, we're very proud of it because we're starting to get many requests to implement this huge advancement in many customers.
Very nice. Well, congratulations. That's huge. That helps so much.
Thanks.
So that's exciting. Now, lastly, I'm wondering, how do you envision the future of deception-based security?
Yeah, there's always the ever-ending cat and mouse game. Attackers advance and defenders advance as well. So on the one hand, we're actually seeing a lot of red teams and pentesters that are trying to vet the technology, trying to combat against deceptions, and they're being caught day after day. This is a great vetting to our technology, that even when there is a team that knows the deceptions are placed in the network, they still get caught. But on the other hand, when we look at deceptions to the futures, we understand that attackers may also understand how deceptions operate, and we start to think, where else can we evolve? And we believe that the deception solutions are going to go to two different areas. The first is to advance on the deceptions front, which is very important, and we can advance to areas such as mobile devices or containerized networks such as Dockers and so on, in order to expand to additional areas where attackers actually land and then propagate to the network. So this could be one challenge. But in addition to that, we understand that since deception solutions and elusive in specific have very unique understanding on how attackers think, because we have this past offensive experience, we understand that we need to add and introduce additional modules that allow us to visualize how attackers behave. So not only to focus on the deceptions part, but also on the visibility and preemption part. And one example to that is the Attack Surface Manager that I covered earlier on.
Very nice. Yeah, no, you're right. At this point, you always have to be one step ahead. So that's, yeah, very important.
Absolutely agree. This is something that we think about every day, and happy to say that with the actual catches that we see for insiders and for real APT and cyber espionage groups, I think that today we are one step ahead of the attackers.
Nice. Well, that's where we want to be. That's perfect. Matan, thank you so much for sitting down and speaking with me today about all this. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Marty.
All right. Good. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Also, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook so you don't miss out on any of the latest cybersecurity news. This episode is brought to you by Pentester Academy, the leader in online cybersecurity education. Join over 10,000 professionals from 90 countries to learn security online. Also brought to you by Hacker Arsenal, artillery for cyber warriors. Visit us on hackerarsenal.com to check out our latest attack defense gadgets. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.